It's Valentine's Day. It is February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. The world is red again. Florists work overtime. Chocolates disappear from shelves. Restaurants fill with reservations. We say it is the day of love, a day for roses, a day for devotion. But before the roses, before the chocolates, before the cards and the candlelight, this day had a very different life. It was older, wilder, and far less romantic. Tonight we're going to trace it back, from wolves to saints to chocolate, before the roses, the origins of Valentine's Day. Lupercalia, the wolves and the cave. To find the beginning, we go back 2,000 years, to ancient Rome. In mid-February, the Romans celebrated Lupercalia, a festival of purification, fertility, and survival. This was not a candlelit dinner. It was wild, chaotic, sacred. The priests of the festival, called the Luperci, gathered at a cave. The Romans believed this was the cave where Romulus and Remus were nursed by a she-wolf. From that cave, Rome was born. At Lupercalia, the priests sacrificed animals. A goat for fertility, a dog for purification. Then the goat's hide was cut into strips, dipped in blood, and carried into the streets. Women lined up to be touched by the bloody strips. They believed the ritual would make them fertile in the year ahead. It was rowdy. It was pagan. It was older than romance itself. This festival, not roses, was the ancestor of Valentine's Day. Cupid before the diaper. And speaking of Rome, we have to talk about the mascot of the holiday. Today, we know him as Cupid. Chubby, winged, holding a tiny bow, shooting hearts like confetti. But the original Cupid was not cute. In Greek mythology, he was Eros, the god of desire. Not a baby, but a beautiful young man. Powerful, unsettling, dangerous. His arrows did not make you blush. They made you lose control. They ignited passion that could ruin marriages, kingdoms, and lives. Love, in the ancient world, was not tender. It was a force, and Eros was the one pulling the string. When the Romans adopted him, they renamed him Cupid. But over centuries, artists softened him, made him younger, then smaller, then harmless. By the Victorian era, Cupid had transformed completely, from a god of uncontrollable desire into a cherub in a diaper. Safe, cute, marketable. But behind the postcards and the Valentine decorations, a truth remains. Cupid was once the most feared god in the room. Saint Valentine and the forbidden marriages. But how did a pagan festival become a saint's holiday? In the 3rd century, Rome was ruled by Emperor Claudius II. He was preparing for war, and he needed soldiers. Claudius believed that unmarried men made better fighters than husbands and fathers. So he banned marriage for young men. Love became illegal. But a priest named Valentine refused to obey. He married lovers in secret, in quiet rooms, by candlelight, under the shadow of the law. When Claudius discovered it, Valentine was arrested. Legend says that while he awaited execution, he met the jailer's daughter. She was blind. He prayed for her. Her sight returned. Before he was taken away, he wrote her a letter, signed with a phrase we still recognize today. From your Valentine. On February 14th, he was executed, and in time, a martyr became a symbol. A symbol became a saint, and a saint became a holiday. The medieval shift, the birds, the poet, and courtly love. For 1,000 years, February 14th was a religious day. Not romantic, not tender, not filled with chocolate hearts. That changed in the Middle Ages, and we can thank an English poet named Geoffrey Chaucer. In the 1370s, Chaucer wrote a poem called Parliament of Fowls. In it, he imagined that Valentine's Day was the day when birds came together to choose their mates. For this was on St. Valentine's Day, when every fowl cometh there to choose his mate. It was a simple idea, but it changed everything. Suddenly, the European nobility fell in love with the notion. Valentines became letters, gifts, and poetic declarations. The oldest surviving Valentine was written in 1415 by Charles, Duke of Orleans, to his wife. He wrote it from prison, from the Tower of London. Even in its romantic period, Valentine's Day could not escape chains and shadows. But the seed was planted. For the first time, February 14th belonged to lovers. Industrial romance, chocolate and cards. Centuries passed. Love letters became tradition. But the modern Valentine required something new. The Industrial Revolution provided it. Factories transformed paper from luxury into commodity. Ink became cheap. Colour became possible. In England, the Cadbury family created the first decorated box of chocolates shaped like a heart. Not for poetry, for marketing. Across the ocean in Massachusetts, a young woman named Esther Howland received an English Valentine. She studied its lace, its paper, its intricate charm. Then she began making her own, by hand, with ribbons, silk, and assembly lines of friends. She did so well that she became known as the mother of the American Valentine. Before her, you needed a poet's courage to confess affection. After her, you only needed a card. Then came Hallmark in 1913. The transformation was complete. A festival born from wolves, saints, and medieval birds had become a billion-dollar industry. The chocolate economy and White Day. Valentine's Day did not stop in Europe or America. It traveled, and in Japan, it changed shape. When Valentine's Day arrived there in the mid-1900s, the message became inverted. Instead of men giving gifts, women gave chocolate. To lovers, to friends, to classmates, to co-workers. The chocolate itself carried meaning. Giri Choco was obligation chocolate. For colleagues, teachers, and bosses. Polite, respectful, not romantic. Honmei Choco was true feeling chocolate. Reserved for someone the heart was willing to risk. The holiday grew so large that an answer became necessary. 1 month later, on March 14th, Japan created White Day. On White Day, men returned the gift. With chocolate, with cookies, or with something sweeter. A holiday born in Europe and polished in America became a ritual of reciprocity in East Asia. Valentine's Day had become global and profitable and endlessly adaptable. Why we keep Valentines? So after all this, a question remains. Why do we keep Valentine's Day? Why does a holiday that began with wolves, became a martyr's death, passed through poetry, and exploded into chocolate still matter? Maybe because beneath the marketing and the glitter and the roses, humans still need a moment to acknowledge love. Not just romance, but affection, gratitude, connection. The Romans used rituals to guard fertility. The medieval poets used words to guard devotion. The Victorians used paper to guard sentiment. And today, we use chocolate and quiet gestures to guard the people we care about. Valentine's Day endures because the urge to reach for another person is older than the holiday itself. Older than Cupid, older than Chaucer, older than saints and emperors and factories. It is older than history. Closing blessing. So this February 14th, when you unwrap a chocolate or read a small card or send a quiet message, remember that you are part of a story that began long before you. A story of wolves, saints, birds, and factory floors. A story reshaped by poets, lovers, and dreamers. A story that survived empires, plagues, and revolutions. Because at its heart, Valentine's Day is not about gifts. It is about connection. And connection is the oldest ritual of all. Happy Valentine's Day.